Hey everyone! Today I would like to talk to you about Canva and its recent update, but more specifically about one feature that Canva released, and this feature is called Magic Layers. Now, why this feature is so important? I generate images with AI, and if you also use AI in your workflow, when you create images or edit images with AI, you've probably encountered situations where there is a small detail or visual element that you need to adjust, maybe resize, maybe move around, or maybe you want to make this specific text in this image. Maybe you want to make it larger or smaller or reposition this text on the bottle. And if you do it with AI, what AI can do is it might just break your image entirely. It might move the text the way you like, but it might make the overall quality worse. Or it might break something else while fixing this text. That is why fixing images with AI is not always the best option, but Canva used to have and still has a nice feature called Magic Grab. You can basically click some element in the image or use brush to choose that specific element and then just grab it. So basically grab it from the image. And this is how you would separate this element from the image, creating a separate layer for this element. But it was still not very convenient, especially if you had several layers. But now what we have is we've got this feature, which is called again Magic Layers, and this is how it works. It scans your entire image, it analyzes it, and what it does is it breaks your image into layers. All the elements in your image are getting broken into layers, even the smallest ones, even the text. So here it is what we got. And what I love about it is that when it separates the text into new layer, it tries to use the font that is as close as possible to the original font. So in this case, it kept the font basically the same while separating it into a different layer. So now we can do whatever we want with the image. Of course, it does not work always perfectly. So for example, these numbers on the dropper, the values, they started looking not realistic. They started looking like usual numbers and usual text. But what it is the best at is such kind of visual elements as labels, stickers, or let's say visual element of this dog. You can just move it around, you can grab it, you can duplicate it, you can do whatever you want. You can make this text smaller, you can make it larger, you can duplicate even such a small visual element as this leaf or this label. All of them got their own layers and you can adjust them the way you want. So for example, let's say I do not like this dog and the cat here. Let's say they are too small. What I can do now is I can simply edit this image. I can choose the dog and the cat, and I could erase both of them. And now I simply replace them with these versions. Well, you can also see that even though the part of the dog is not visible, so this paw is not visible, and it still generated it properly. So basically what it did, it added that visual element that was not properly visible. Yeah, it does not look very accurate if you look at the fur, but still it's accurate enough, and you can simply make them larger and add them to this image. Of course, yeah, the bottle is not a separate layer, so I cannot then behind the bottle, but what we can do is we can take this bottle. Oh, now the bottle, look at this. It separated the bottle from the label. And what I can do, I do not want the bottle to be separated from the label. I could copy this original image, and what I could do is I could grab the bottle entirely. because right now the label is removed and some of the visual elements do not look like they were in the original image. For example, these labels, these words, they do not look the same. So I could basically grab the bottle as it is and have it as a separate layer, and then place the dog and the cat larger behind the bottle. If you're thinking that it's a nice tool, but maybe it's just because this image is simple, I have a much more complicated image here. So let's do the same just to see how it does with a more complicated image in terms of visual elements that are present there. So it is ready, and now you can see what it did. It basically created a layer for everything, even for the smallest details. This label, this text, everything now is editable. And that is super useful for AI generated images when you do not want to re-edit them over and over again using AI. You can just come here to Canva. Yeah, it's a paid plan. It's about $15, I believe, per month, but you get this feature, and then everything in your image becomes editable, and you can adjust it the way you want. You can erase, you can remove, and everything becomes layers. And what I love is that, for example, this half of fruit, I can remove it, and behind you will not have just empty pixels. So the whole, you will not have the whole. It draws what's behind the visual element you move. So yeah, look at this. It drew everything else that could be there behind that visual element. And now I can edit this text the way I want. I can write vitamin B. If there was a wrong vitamin, I don't know. I can change the alignment of the text, keeping everything else the same. So it gives us infinite possibilities for editing our images without breaking the overall quality, and being able to adjust only what we want. So how I use it is I would usually keep the original and remove something that I want to edit. For example, I would basically use brush and remove this text. If I want to edit it, then I use layers. And here it is. Here's my new text. I just copy it here, and I just place it the way I want, use the font I want. It's especially useful if you have problematic fonts and AI is having hard time generating it. You can just upload fonts to Canva and adjust all the text that you have in your images. Hope it was useful and that it will make your image generation and editing process simpler. And if you need any help with your images, just feel free to message me. All the contact details can be found in the description. And have a nice day. Bye-bye.